Welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about your Dolby Atmos enabled speakers, satellite speakers, and your bookshelves. And if you're going to really need a Dolby Atmos enabled speaker, is that really necessary? If you already own these other two, what are the advantages and disadvantages of these speakers? We're going to get into it for your Dolby Atmos high channels. But before I do, don't forget to subscribe for more content. Thank you very much. First of all, each brand and model for the type varies on the quality you get. All three types of speakers compared in this video. It's my day-to-day speakers I use, and all are gonna be set to the front height channels because I believe that is the best for Atmos simulation. I choose front height as the settings over in-ceiling speakers. I believe that it sounds better for Atmos. FYI. The bookshelf that I'm using still to this in this video is the Bowers & Wilkins CM5. They're pretty old model, but still works really good. It's one of my favorites for bookshelf. The satellite speaker is the Infinity Universal Satellite. Pretty good satellite speaker, one of my favorites. That's why I'm using this one still. And the Dolby Atmos enabled speakers in this video is by the Klipsch R-41SA. That's your regular Dolby Atmos speaker made by Klipsch. Now, the advantages of a bookshelf speaker is that it is bigger in size for more volume, and there's many selection for bookshelf, but it is much harder to mount on a wall depending how big your bookshelf is. So it might not be practical to use as a high channel if you're not able to mount it on a wall. Luckily for me, I have a real bookshelf that I can put the bookshelf speakers on pretty high. The advantages of a satellite is that it is easily mountable on the wall, and it can be directional depending on your bracket, but you can make satellites any directions you want to point it. But the satellite doesn't have the Dolby Atmos enabled downfiring technology. So obviously your satellite speaker is not typically made for Dolby Atmos, only simply for high channels only, and your satellite speakers is limited to the brand selection, of course. Now, the advantages of a Dolby Atmos enabled speaker is that it is specifically designed for your Atmos directional technology. So that speaker obviously is made intentionally for Dolby Atmos, and it does a great job of it. But the disadvantages is that the selection is not as much you're gonna get with your bookshelf brands for Atmos. Now, to answer the question, is Dolby Atmos enabled speakers necessary for Dolby Atmos surround sound? The answer is no, as long as you're using some type of high channel for your Atmos channels. As long as you're using some type of speakers up there, front firing or down firing, front height settings. But if you want the true Atmos experience intended by the makers, I do recommend a Dolby Atmos enabled speaker, but don't use it up firing, use it as a down firing set to front heights. That is what I recommend for your Atmos channels. Now, my experience with the bookshelf and satellite speakers when you're using it as Atmos channels, both the bookshelf and satellite speakers create a good enough Atmos sound. It just lacks the downwards direction of of sound when necessary. Of course, for instance, we know that there's not many scenes that would require that simulation of a downfiring action sequence. But if there was a helicopter above you, you would definitely hear the chopper sooner and more distinctly on a Dolby Atmos enabled speaker versus your bookshelf or satellite. Even though the bookshelf and satellite do simulate a great chopper above effect, you will definitely get that three-dimensional sound with your chopper on just your regular bookshelf and satellite. Now, to reiterate, you can get away with using your bookshelf or satellite as Atmos channels if for some reason you don't want to upgrade or feel like it's necessary to buy a Dolby Atmos enabled speaker. You will definitely the bookshelf and satellite would do just fine. They will simulate good enough Dolby Atmos experience. But the real question is, which one do I prefer between a bookshelf or satellite? Surprisingly, I would choose the satellite over bookshelf for the simple fact that it is easier to mount and can also be directional. For the best Atmos experience, though, number one is, of course, if you were to rate these type of speakers, or satellite, bookshelf, or Atmos enabled speakers, obviously number one is going to be a Dolby Atmos enabled speakers, because it is intended for Dolby Atmos experience. The technology and it's phenomenal. I would rate number two your satellite speakers because it's versatile and it's pretty much simple and light and simple to mount. And last but not least, your bookshelf speakers. But that's my time. That's gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. Comment below with your thoughts. Are you happy with your high channels? What are they? Are you using satellite or bookshelf or Dolby enabled speakers? But keep it friendly, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Hooded Dragons out.